you've started to use the exogenous ketones. So tell us how you use them.
Yeah, so this season was my first year. I would say still experimenting with ketones. So I did use them during races, maybe not as heavily as some other people. Or the recommendations, I guess, maybe. But I've been using them more kind of leading into races. I would take them, I would say half the actual recommended doses, or like a single bottle. I would do half a bottle for like the few nights leading up, right before bed.
That's sleep, yeah, for the sleep. Yep.
What's that?
For the sleep factor.
Yes. Yep. Right. And then, take one during the morning. And then for an Ironman, I think I'd take a bottle. I did a half a bottle on the bike, half a bottle in the run. So a little bit more on race day, but not like every 2 hours, a full bottle. Like I think some of the recommendations have been made here. So, but I do think it's helping. I guess, not just because I'm on your podcast here, but I'll say that I feel like the power of Vespa has been more significant. And, while I do see some benefits from the ketones, I haven't noticed it as much as, using your products.
Well, it's the thing is like what's happened is with the ketones, it's really easy. Well, I wouldn't say it's really easy, but there's a risk that if you take it too much or at the wrong time, you'll tank your liver, because it'll signal you got plenty of ketones, the liver will shut down.
Yep. And then
all those ketones that your liver is making, and the glucose your liver is making, and the glycogen you're making. So like the pro tour cyclists right now, they're just using it for recovery, like you were, right?
Okay. Yep.
Right. They're using it for recovery. What we found, and you're one more data point here, is when you're doing some of the OFM protocols to get more fat adapted, and you're using the Vespa, that sort of locks in your foundational physiology, right? And then that little microdose of ketones on the bike, on the run, keeps your head in the game, because ketones are like your brain
more
and neural cells.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain and neural cells just suck those things up. And they're really not a good energy source for your muscles. So you don't notice a performance increase, but you can keep your head in the game easier and better and maintain that high level of performance in a race, right? Because of the cognition and all that, so you can manage yourself better.
It can be, extremely valuable, obviously, too. If you're not going to be able to, I do think, coming with experience of being in sport, I think part of, the improvements too is just having the confidence and the mental strength to push through when, maybe you would have doubted yourself earlier on in your, endurance career.
Right. And that's one of the things that fat adaptation really does, is when you're fat adapted, especially if you're using the ketones on top of that in a race, you're what I call blood sugar stable. And when your blood sugar stable, your brain has cognitive stability, emotional stability. You just have this sense that I can do this, not in that term of you got this, but like this quiet confidence that I can dig deep.
Yeah.
Right.